hey guys, it's my birthday when you're seeing this. And I thought, what better way to celebrate my birthday, becoming 29, than filming my top fantasy reads of the last year. And I couldn't make it a top 10. I tried really hard. It's 13. I want to talk about the books that would have been cut off. It's not that I couldn't have cut them off, but I want to talk about them. So that's just going to happen. It's my birthday, my channel, my rules. And I have a whole playlist down in the description where I've gone through other top 10s in non-SFF, sci-fi. I talk about my anthologies. I talk about series I'm going to read next year, like all of the end of the year goodness down below. And we're going to talk about some fantasy today. And I struggled. Other lists, it was really easy to be like, this is my favorite book of this genre. It was actually really easy. This one, we'll see if I even change my mind once I get to the end. I am struggling with the top, 3. A lot. And I actually even broke a rule. I'm putting a book on this list that I have read this December. And I know that breaks my rule, but I don't care. It's my birthday. I'm going to do what I want. So we're going to start, though, with Driftwood by Marie Brennan. This was a year of discovering new favorite authors. In the last video, we learned that I love Nikki Drayden, right? That was in the sci-fi video. In this one, we learn that I love Marie Brennan, and it happened quite organically. With this one, I picked it up at the library while I was doing my own personal 48-hour reading vlog, and it was so cathartic and perfect for me. This is a story about a place where all worlds go after their apocalypses. So you would think that would be sad. All of these places are going away basically to a junkyard world, and they will all slowly disintegrate. But it's not. It's about people overcoming these situations and still living and still thriving and still finding reasons to be. And the narrative structure is so interesting. We have this larger-than-life figure who's sort of immortal, and suddenly he goes missing. And then everyone's just telling their stories and interactions with this person. And it's a perfect novella in that way. I love that framing. It was great to read that weekend. And like I said, so cathartic because of the times. So I couldn't not mention that one. So it's the only novella on this list, I believe. Let me look at this. Yeah, this was a novella that I was just made for Angela. Give it to me, and I still need to buy myself a copy. At number 12 is my best perfect spooky season book, and this is The Changeling by Victor LaValle. Whew. So I think some people would say this is horror. I have no clue. I have no good sense of what the horror genre consists of, but it's for sure fantasy. So if it is horror, it's fantasy horror. And it is dark fairy tale, and it is great. If you like Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro, it's those vibes of just unsettlingness, but it's not so grotesque that you can't consume it. I don't know. This is a story about a new father and what happens with his new kid and his wife, and I'm keeping it vague, but a changeling is the myth, the folklore of a baby being interchanged with a fae creature or a different supernatural creature, and that is the folk tale this is based off. But it's in New York City instead of a forest or in Europe. It's very modern. It's a black main character. It's written by a black author. I loved it. I think, like I said, if you like Pan's Labyrinth, if you like The City We Became, it's got a lot of both of those vibes in it. I couldn't put it down. I had such a fun time. I was so unsettled. There were moments where I was really stressed, the good stress that you want in a book. And I think the ending is very satisfying, but also open-ended in the best ways where different people can take different things away from it or interpret events differently. And I think that's so fun in this type of fairy tale horror speculative space. And it's one of the only books I have read like this. So if you have recommendations, let me know. All right, number 11 is, I think, the only indie book on my list, but boy, is it a great book, and this is The Boy with Fire. This is the first book, and I think a planned trilogy. It is sci-fantasy a little bit, but for me leans more fantasy, but it's far future fantasy, really cool technology. You could definitely see it as a science fiction. Think of Dune. It's very much that type of thing. It's even a desert, but this is actually written by an Indian author. And I really liked it. So you follow multiple characters. You kind of have someone who's trying to have a redemption arc, used to be this kind of thief, assassin person who's now coming to work for the palace. They don't really trust him. He's trying to gain their trust. We have this princess who's trying to balance her need for freedom, but she knows she's going to be coming into power soon, and balancing all of that. There is a prophecy looming. There is danger afoot, and it is so interesting. And I really loved it. I loved the writing. I couldn't put it down. I bought myself a copy to reread before the second book because I need the second book. I need it so bad. This is not a book that ends in a way where you don't want the second book. Like, I wish I had the second book. But I also had such a fantastic time reading this. It had so many of my tropey fantasy goodness in here. So I guess starting officially into the top 10. Number 10 was a book I read last year. One of the first books I read in December of last year, and it is the book that has grown on me the most since I've read it. Like, talk about a book that has lasted with me and I didn't expect. Each of Us a Desert. I know I talk about this book a bunch on my channel, mainly because it still has, like, no ratings on Goodreads. This is one of those 2020 releases that was done dirty. I will show you on the screen the exact number of ratings it has. This book is too good for that few numbers, okay? And I do think part of its issue is that it is not, like, easy to market and find the audience for it. It is young adult because it is a coming-of-age story, and that is the intended audience by the author. But I think adults can take so much away from it, and it's an extremely reflective, introspective piece that at times is like a really slow journey story, and other times it's like a really violent, like, oh goodness, we're in a dystopian world story. And like, it just has all of these bits. We have enemies to lovers. We have a woman who has had all of this responsibility thrust upon her shoulders since she was very young. She is the conquista. She has to take in the stories of her people and give it to their god Solis, and it's very draining, and she just wants her own life. So that's what triggers the start of her journey and learning about this world, which is a fantasy dystopia world. And I love those. I eat those up. And the framing of it, it was so beautiful, and I instantly bought myself a copy, and it has art in it, and I cannot wait to read it again. It's a book that I'm going to keep taking things from. Like, I think this is a story that works really well in adult, but is also, intended for young adult audiences, but I could see someone who's picking up a young adult fantasy book being like, this is not what I signed up for. This is not the mood I was in, because it's not as fast-paced as we have been conditioned to expect fantasy young adult books, if that makes sense. And I love it. I love it so much. And it is exactly like what I am always searching for when I'm like, I want Latinx fantasy books. And this feels like it. Like, it's not like set in our world, so it's not like this is set in Mexico or whatever, but it gave me a lot of Southwest USA vibes in Mexico, which I really like that. But I really just loved the integration of Spanish language in this work. It was so good. Cannot wait to reread it. And that's why it's number 10, even though I've literally read it over a year ago. It's still just, it's in my brain. I think about it a lot. I love a lot of the things it does. It's great. Number 9 is Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon. This is my favorite work by them. Goodness, how to discuss this one. This is another book that could maybe be considered horror, so maybe I do like fantasy horror. I never said I didn't like horror, just that I don't know what I would like. And this is definitely one of those books, though, that, like, it could be in any genre. You could convince me. Science fiction, fantasy, horror. It's speculative. It's not trying to fit in your box. It's doing what it needs to do to tell the story it wants to tell. And the story it's trying to tell is about Vern. She's a very young mother. When you start the book, she is giving birth. And she's giving birth in a very stressful situations, and part of the book is her raising her kids in the forest. She has run away from this cult. So there's cult dynamics in this book. There's also supernatural sci-fi things that I'll be vague about that are happening to Vern. And in this story, it's very gripping and thrilling to read. I don't want to say it's fast-paced, but it was very page-turner paced, if that makes sense. Like, I really wanted to know what was happening next, trying to figure out what's happening to Vern, how is Vern going to keep herself and her kids safe, and then it runs into a bit of found family that makes my heart so soft. Like, there are moments that happen that I'm just like, oh, I was so concerned about the plot over here, but now we're in this quiet moment. I like this. So the balance between the plot moments and the character relationship moments was amazing. And then you just have the themes of motherhood and place in society and gender norms, etc. Like, so good. I'm going to be saying so good a lot. Like, I loved the fantasy books I read this year. I know some people said this year wasn't a strong year for fantasy. I disagree. At least it was a strong year for people like me. So if you're a reader who likes the things I like, I think it was a very strong year. And Sorrowland was no exception. Fantastic. My favorite work by them. I mean, I've read I think all of their novels and one novella, and I've always been impressed, but this one was the one that had the best balance of themes, pacing, and character work for my taste. Up next is the only other young adult on my list, and this is Illusionary by Zoraida Cordova. I love this book. I love this duology. This is like my favorite young adult duology. This is the young adult duology where I'm like the opposite of Each of Us a Desert. Do you want a tropey good time? Do you want some predictable formulaic young adult, but it doesn't take too long and it's really well executed? This is the duology. So this is the second book, and I can't talk about it a lot without spoiling the first book, but we follow a character, I believe her name is Ren, although I've been reading a lot of characters with names like Rin and Ren this year, so I might be wrong. Regardless, our main character has this power where she can take people's memories and they become part of her. So she like removes memory. It's very much like Rogue from X-Men. Okay, lots of taking, no giving. It's not like she can see people's minds. She's just taking. And this is one of those feared powers, but is also really interesting to use. So at one point as a kid, she was used by the kingdom, which is ruled by this really ruthless king. And then she joins the rebels because she was rescued as a kid, but they never trust her because of her power. So that's who she is. But she does have like a group of people, they're working as rebels, and then things happen, okay? And it has some of my favorite tropes in the second book. Like when I finished the first book, which was really fun, the first book was like a solid 4-star, quick, heart-racing, anxiety-inducing experience. And then it set up stuff that I'm like, is that gonna happen? Are we doing it? And then we did. So if you read the first book and you're like, are we going to explore this line of inquiry? Yes, we do. It's great. And objectively, is it a 5-star book? I don't know, probably not. I don't know what objectivity is in reviews, but I binged it on vacation. It was perfect. I read like 200 pages of it in one sitting. It was everything I wanted. It was fantastic. I had a great time. I will read anything Zoraida Cordova puts out. I am probably even going to try and read her romance books that she put out under a different pen name because I trust her, especially with romance stuff, okay? So, yeah, some of the tropes I like have to do with young adult romance tropes. So I guess if you want to know more, feel free to ask me in the comments and I will let you know. I won't tell you what happens, but I feel like even mentioning the type of trope is a spoiler in itself. All right, this next one, I don't actually even think I gave any book 5 stars, but it was so all-encompassing and like it's like the definition of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And this is The Memoirs of Lady Trent by Marie Brennan. See, it was a big year for me reading Marie Brennan. Yeah, this series took over my fall. I started the first book in August, and I think I finished it in October, all 5 books, and they're pretty short. They're like 300, 400-page books. They're not too long. And I started listening to them on audiobook while working on like yarn projects, which was amazing. This is a story, I mean, it's a memoir, a fake memoir told by this old woman who is a natural historian in specifically the study of dragons, having each book talk about an expedition and things that you kind of talk about in memoirs about yourself. And it's so interesting because she will like refer to things, but not explicitly being like, well, I could talk about this, but you already have read this in this other place and you know what's coming. But like me as a reader, I don't, right? Like I'm not in this fictional world, but it provides interesting intrigue, but with the cozy blanket of, Lady Trent's alive. Like, she's not dead. So I get to be all cozy and know that my favorite character is going to make it, even when every book she ends up in trouble. So it's very predictable and formulaic, but it's cozy, and I love the parts of the world that she travels to, the people that she meets. It's amazing. I will reread it one day, and I highly recommend this book to so many people. Like, it's so fun, and she's so sassy. Like, it's sometimes hard for me to pinpoint who is like my favorite character of the year, and I think it hands down has to be Lady Trent. Like, plot wise, do I care about any plot specific point that happened? No, there were some cool world building reveals, that was great. The thing I cared about was Lady Trent using her sassy old lady voice to tell me about her days and how she wore pants, and that was so scandalous. Like, that's what I loved about this series. We're now getting into, I don't know how to rank books territory, but number 6, I'm putting as The Jasmine Throne. This is my first Tasha Sori, and I loved it. I have a review for this. I probably have a review for a lot of these. I will put any relevant reviews down below if you need more of my thoughts. But this is such an amazing start to an epic adult fantasy series. Like, I am so pumped. This had some great fist pump moments at the end where I'm like, yes, that is epic. This is why I read fantasy. It had great, like, slow burn character relationship development. It had good intrigue, especially in the world building. Like, you start off in this book and you're like, wait, what is this thing we're talking about? That's really cool. That's really unsettling and really cool. And there's, like, classic, we have rebellion, we have really tense political tension, we have multiple religions warring against each other. Like, it's bread and butter amazing fantasy with amazing, I think it's Indian or Southeast Asian inspired fantasy. And then the second book's cover got released. Yeah, great. It's fantastic. Okay, so I love the Jasmine Throne. It was really great. I think if you are nervous because she's known for a fantasy romance duology, not to be concerned. This has as much romance as any adult fantasy does. It's not the focal point. If it's there for a purpose. But, like, I thought its romance was really well done and intentioned, but it wasn't the focal point. It wasn't like a fantasy romance. This was an epic political fantasy series. Like, this was good, okay? It had a lot of things that I loved in, like, A Song of Ice and Fire, but executed in a way that I really enjoy. So, and then up next, the other book in the Sapphic trifecta, The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. I am in the minority on the internet where this is my favorite book in the Sapphic trifecta, but gosh darn it, do I love Terrain. Terrain was up for favorite character of the year, and then Lady Trent happened. But anyways, this is North African-inspired fantasy. We have Terrain, who is basically a child soldier taken away from her land at a young age. She's coming back now. She's supposed to help quell rebellion, and obviously things can get complicated from there. You can kind of extrapolate what could be happening with her. And then there's also Luca, who is a princess trying to prove that she can take over her empire, and she's an interesting character because she's the definition of imperialism force here in this area, and she is relatable. You can understand where she's coming from, but also internally you're like, yeah, but, like, I'm not on your side, am I? And it's fascinating. So these are our two main point of views, and, you know, there's rebellion, and this is not even that high magic, which is why I'm shocked. I loved it so much, but I loved it because of these characters and being in their heads, and I just thought they were so well crafted. And this is a debut. Okay, this is a debut, and they were talking on Twitter about almost being done with the draft for the next one, and I'm just, like, so excited. 2023, hopefully. Maybe earlier, but I doubt that with the paper supply stuff. But regardless, I'm so excited. I am so pumped because I do think the magic's going to open up more in the second book. But I love this book. I have more thoughts in a review somewhere. I will try and not keep gushing. Oh, goodness. Okay, cool. The next one is actually an easy one. The three after the top three are, like, real rough. But number 4 is the Winnowing Flame series. I've only read the first 2 books at the time of filming this, but gosh darn it, do I enjoy them. The first book was such a fantastic start. Introduced characters I instantly cared about. I instantly loved them. I loved their character dynamics and their internal banter and chemistry. I loved the world. The world is so creepy and different and cool with the classic plot of the world's probably going to end soon and we're all just kind of ignoring it, but maybe we should figure it out. And then, you know, things accelerate and we go into save the day mode. I love that stuff. That's like Mistborn, right? Like, I love that type of premise and learning about this world. And our characters come from so many different angles and corners. It's just a great lens into everything. And then the Bitter Twins. I have not had such high anxiety with finishing a book in so long. Which is what I want. When I read a book, I kind of want to be hurt. I don't know. It doesn't happen often. It takes a very special writer to, like, make me sit down and go, oh no, and be like, what's going to happen? Is everyone okay? Because this author writes with stakes. You don't know what's going to happen. And yeah, and this is also, I want to point out, one of the few authors who can get me to visualize things in any meaningful way, especially even their action scenes. Her action scenes I thought were so cool, so cinematic. So when things are creepy, they're really creepy, and when things are actiony, they look really cool, and I love the characters and their chemistry. Like, that's a perfect fantasy series for me. It's like a fantastic time. And, like, probably the only reason it's not higher up is I haven't read The Poison Song yet. Like, I have to get to that. And this is where I broke my rule. And in theory, this next one shouldn't be on the list. And I think this is where it belongs. I think. I'm struggling. I'm a struggle bus, okay? But I do believe this is where it belongs. And I finished it yesterday, which is why I'm like, recency bias, Angela. Think it through, think it through. But Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. It's so good. Oh my gosh. I think this, if I had to rank series enders, which I might do a video on that. I might take all the series I've read in 2020 and like make them fight against each other. But if we're talking specifically the last book in a series, I don't think I have read one better than this in a very, very long time. I'm trying to even think. Maybe The Stone Sky, back when I read that a couple years ago, and before that, maybe The Hero of Ages, maybe. I mean, at first I thought it was Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb, but Jade Legacy is a darn near perfect book. Like, it's so good. And like, remember, I didn't love Jade Ward that much. Like, I like Jade Ward, but not as much as everyone else. This book, oh my gosh, the way we look at these character interactions and like how things expand and how things conclude, I think it's just that she stuck the landing. Like, it's like when you watch a gymnast and you're like, well, that was a really pretty thing you did in the air, but are you going to jump? Are you going to hop? Are you going to step? No, we landed. There was no jumping, no hopping, no stepping. That was it. And on top of that, she did all the somersaults in the air. Like, whew. So, and the reason I didn't put it up higher is like, I read the entirety of the Greenbone saga this fall, and it was really fun reading Jade City and Jade War again, and I love Jade City. But I still only really like Jade War, although I have upgraded Jade War's rating to 5 stars, because now in context, as I predicted, everything makes sense. I really appreciate everything she did. But like, it's just, I read like 250 pages of Jade Legacy yesterday, guys. Like, the hype is real. If you've liked the Greenbone saga up to this point, even if you were slightly disappointed with Jade War, this book, it sticks the landing. It's great. It's great. That's it. I'm going to stop talking about it. Don't want to even remotely try and spoil anything. I broke my rule. It had to be here. I couldn't wait a year to say it was one of my favorite books of the year. It wasn't happening. All right. And now, I've already briefly mentioned this author, but the Live Ship Trader series by Robin Hobb. I read the entirety of this year, and I loved it. Until I read Jade Legacy was my favorite series ending of the year, like completed series. And I still really like that ending. But whereas I have one quibble in Ship of Destiny, I have 0 quibbles in Jade Legacy, But at the same time, every book in Live Ship Traders was on a first read, a 5-star read for me, and an unputdownable experience. And the writing style of Robin Hobb is so good. And honestly, talking about them side by side, I recommend people who like Live Ship Traders to read Greenbone Saga and vice versa. I know they're very different settings. Like, one is urban fantasy mafia families, and the other one is like pirates and like trader families, but it's not that different, because the trader families are not that dissimilar to these families in Keikon, and the power struggles and the family drama and the character work. Fonda Lee and Robin Hobbs do such mind-blowingly consistent, well thought out character work that I don't get to experience that often, and their writing styles work great. Like, I think Robin Hobb has a better flow in her prose. I don't even know if that's right, because they're honestly different vibes, right? Like, the difference between the two are the vibes. One feels like classic fantasy, and the other one feels more modern, I guess I would say. But Live Ship Traders, like, it's why I read fantasy, is to read things like the Live Ship Traders series. Like, in terms of the character relationships, the mysteries of the world, the big moments, the big how are we getting out of this mess moments sort of stuff. Like, I don't even know what else to say. I have so many videos on the Live Ship Traders series, okay? I got 2 reviews, spoiler-free, and I got 3 spoiler chats. I have so many thoughts, and yet I'm blanking on words right now because I loved it so much. But that leaves the top book, which, when I was thinking about like these top 3, which are like all like such amazing experiences in my heart, I was like, but what has like defined my year the most? And nothing has defined my year and brought me so much joy than The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, Marie Brennan, Alice Helm. So, like, I'm kind of known as the Mask of Mirrors channel at this point, which is totally great. I'm great with it. Everyone keeps telling me they're picking it up and loving it. It brings me joy. And people who pick it up and don't love it, you don't have to tell me. It's okay. I accept your opinion. Totally fine. But I loved this story, and I reread it last month, and I was wondering, Was it just something I imagined? Was it all in my head? Because I read it in January. I reread it last month. It was even better. It was even better. And even having just read Jade Legacy, like, this is the book that, like, got me so excited to read new releases and find new authors. And this duo, like, I mean, this was the first Marie Brennan I read. I still need to read Alice Helm. The reason this came together is so cool. I guess I haven't talked about what it's about, but did I talk about what the other ones were about? Not really. But this is the first book in The Rook and the Rose. The last book will be out probably early 2023. So, like, they're almost done with the third draft. It's gonna be finished. And this is a world where you have indigenous people, you have people who have colonized these people, and then you have people who were born there, but, are not indigenous. You have this whole mess, and you have different magic systems associated with these different people. You have one that's very mathematically based by the Leganti, and then you have one that is more tarot based by the I can't remember how to say the name, but by the indigenous local people. So one has tarot cards, one has astrology, one has these things called Numinati, which are these really cool, like, inscriptions that, like, can create things to do, which, like, Elantris, Foundry Side. I love things when you write it down, it does stuff. Like, awesome. Now, not only is this world so vibrant, so lived in, has such cool politics, great houses vying for power and things like that. Some of my favorite characters. You have Ren, who is this con artist who is one of the only con artists in fiction that I believe is a con artist. Everyone else, I'm like, you're just telling me you're good at what you do. No. I'm in her head. I am seeing her have to pivot in real time. She is being like, oh no, am I going to be caught out here? How do I convince them? Oh, I'm having to do this sooner than I thought. Like, and she also has multiple cons, so you really get to see her. She feels grounded. She feels realistic. I love her. I love the reasons behind why she does what she does. That's the main character. She's great. You have the Rook, okay? The Rook, you don't get a lot of, but man, his page time is phenomenal. He is a masked avenger. You don't know anything about him. You spend most of the book trying to guess, who is this person? The only person you know he's not is Ren, okay? You spend the whole book trying to figure this out. And he is so sexy, so awesome, just so, like, it's just awesome. He's just so fun when he's on page. It's just like Zorro or something, right? It's just, like, such a great time. And then you have Vargo. He's this guy who came up in the streets and wants to be a part of the upper class, but everyone thinks of him as a crime boss. But he's also so charismatic, but also, like, would cut someone. Like, he is my favorite character with questionable morals to love. And then you have Gray Serrata, who is someone who works in the police force and questions his feelings about doing this because he is actually someone who is indigenous and everyone thinks he's a turncoat because of that, but he's trying to change the system from the inside. You have Tess, Ren's sister. I love Tess. Tess is so good. It's fantastic. They literally dance and have ballroom politics at dance, like ballroom events. And the way dance is described is everything I love about ballroom dance. This book was made for me, okay? So that's why it's number one. It's my brand. I've committed to it. When they decide to crowdfund those tarot cards, I'm going to be there. So yeah, if you've made it this far, thanks for hanging out with me on my birthday. I have no idea what I'm doing today, but hopefully I'm reading The Liar's Knot because I think I decided while I was planning my week that, if I get X done on Tuesday, I could take the day off on Wednesday. So maybe, if I'm kind to myself. If you want to leave an emoji, you can leave a birthday emoji, or you can leave a mask for the Mask of Mirrors. Either one works for me. Let me know some of your favorite fantasy of the year. Let me know where I got it wrong. I know I have some, not unpopular opinions, but, like, I do definitely rate some things differently from, like, the average internet person. And, like, if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.